Hello and welcome. My name is Dehalov and this is my second place Ogdoadic Dino deck profile, where I went 3-1 just this past Sunday at Locals, only losing the last run to my playtest partner on Synchrons. So first I will go over the deck and what it wants to do, and then at the end I will talk about my matchups and how they went. So first we have two Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. Most people know this is just an insane boss monster with enormous attack points, and a quick play Book of Moon easily shuts down Xyz and Synchro decks, though I did learn Contact Fusion with Cyber Dragon is a problem still. We have one Aaron, the Ogdotic King. He is something you could cut if you wanted to play a very slim engine, but I find that with Alert, I need him relatively often. That is because Alert, you can tribute a monster to special summon him from grave, and if you do, your opponent gets to add a monster from grave to hand. And then you can target two monsters, including a reptile, put them back in your graveyard from your banish. This is really bad. Going first, this is fine, because your opponent oftentimes gets nothing. Even if they hand trap, they probably won't get anything. But further into the duel, and this is a grinder deck, they will get a card back. And so what King does is, when a card is added to the opponent's hand through any means except their draw phase, you get to randomly hand rip them for one. So this keeps this Alert from really hurting you as much. Next we have one Curse, the Ogdotic Light. Just like Alert, you can tribute a monster to special summon this from grave. If you do, your opponent gets a special monster from their own graveyard effects negated, and then you can target and special summon a level 4 or lower Ogdotic monster to your side of the field. This is the reason Alert will sometimes not give them their hand trap back, is because if they hand trapped Curse, they will often sometimes summon that monster off Curse's effect. Next we have the Giant Rex as a banished target. This is another free material and often gets us to our Apollosa. We play the one Miscellaneousaurus because it's huge for our plays and huge protection for our bosses, although it's often not left over by that point in the duel. Still leading Oviraptor is an amazing starter. He lets us either search or dump a dino from deck on summon, and then we can pop a dino on our field to summon a level 4 or lower dino from our graveyard. Or no, summon a dino, I always forget that part, from our graveyard in defense position. Next we play Zoha, Ogdoadic Boundless. This card seems really bad, but it's actually very important to the deck. What this does is, if it is in the graveyard, you can discard any card from your hand to add him to your hand. And what this does is this unbricks our hand if we have our level 8s, or if we have a dino in hand that we want to get engraved, so we get full value from our Evo Pill, or a second dino for the normal Conductor summon. Next we play two Reptilian Echidna. This card, if you control a dark reptile, you can just special summon this card. And this is really good because it gives us extenders, and will often, with a bad hand, get you straight to Melusine for a defensive board, or to King of the Feral Imps, so you can search out further playmakers. Night Sword Serpent. If this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can special summon it, but banish it when it leaves the field. This can be really good off the Snake Rain if you have, say, a Nunu or a Naya in hand and you get their effects off, because usually with Snake Rain you want to send Naya, Nunu, Curse, and Alert. But if one of these is already in the graveyard, sending Night Sword Serpent off the Snake Rain gets you another free material, one step closer to an Apo. Next we play two Naya, the Ogdotic Remnant. You can send this card from your hand to the graveyard to Foolish Burial a light reptile from your deck. Also, if this card is special summoned, or normal summon, you can add an Ogdotic spell trap from your deck to your hand. This card is amazing because what you do is you discard this to send your Curse, and then with a tribute you summon Curse and summon this, and then you can search out one of your back row spells, which we'll get to. So this card works double duty, filling your graveyard and getting you materials for future plays. Next we have two Nunu. This card is very similar. You can discard this to send a Dark Ogdotic from your deck to the grave, and if you have no monsters or an Ogdotic monster in your field, you can special summon this from your graveyard, but you are locked into reptile special summons while it is out. So what you do with this is you send Nunu from hand, and then you send Alert, and then you have a full rank 8 combo here, because as we said, we have Curse and Naya on the board, and then we tribute the Naya to summon the Alert, so now we have two level 8s for a rank 8 play. Additionally, oftentimes, for different hands, you will use Nunu to send Zoha, add Zoha to hand with his own effect, normal summon Zoha, special summon Nunu, and this gets you a King of the Feral Imps to find other cards. Next we play 3 Ash Blossom. This card is amazing. I recently got a hold of these from a friend of mine, and they make a huge difference for this deck. Baby Ceresaurus we play 3 of. We want to see this in our opening hand. This is one of our Dino starters. We want to see this with Ovi, we want to see this with Misk, we even don't mind seeing it with Archosaur, but this card's very important. We play 2 Archosaur. This is for brick reasons, because you want to summon this from the deck with Miscellaneousaurus's effect. If one of them is in hand, this turns this combo off, so we play 2 for safety, because it is that important that this happens when we see the right hand. We play 3 Snake Rain. This card lets us discard a card and send 4 reptiles from deck to grave. And as I said, you want to send Naya, Nunu, Alert, and Curse, because that is a rank 8 off just this card, and that's a rank 8 every turn. Next we play 2 Ogdotic Water Lily. This lets us Foolish Burial a reptile, and then if we have 5 or more unique reptiles in our grave, we can special summon a reptile. It's a Foolish Monster Reborn. This card is amazing, but we actually don't see that second effect go off that often. Oftentimes, this card is used just for that mill to set up the rank 8 play. We play 2 Double Evo Pill. This is also for brick reasons, because with the Archosaur, sometimes you'll have one in hand, and this is a card you can pull 2 off, though not in the same turn. This is a grinder deck, so you want to establish those future hands. We have 3 Fossil Dig to find our pieces. We want to find our baby, we want to find our Misk, we want to find our Oviraptor. This does that. 1 Called by the Grave, because we'd be playing 3 if it were a 3. 1 Ogdotic Serpent Strike. This card is amazing. This is a continuous spell where we can send 1 monster from hand or field to the graveyard and summon a reptile with a different original attribute. This can oftentimes fix our hand in ways that are very important. It can put Giant Rex to the grave from hand, it can put our level 8s in the grave, or it can summon level 8s for materials or get King ready for the hand rip if Alert has not triggered its effect yet. Lastly, we play 3 Impermanence. This card shuts off back row and monsters. I actually won a duel shutting off floodgates with this for a momentary reprieve so I could finish the duel with Numeron Dragon against True Draco. For our extra deck, we play 1 Chaos Ruler, the Chaotic Magical Dragon. I never summon this, and this should probably be cut. We play 1 Reptilian Melusine. This requires a Reptile Tuner and 1 non-tuner monster, and if summoned with only reptiles, it cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. And once per chain, when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can target a monster they control and permanently reduce its attack to 0. And if this card is sent to the grave by your opponent's card effect, somehow, you can search a reptile. This card may feel strange, but it is amazing. That permanent 0 is huge, and not being able to get over it except by spinning and banishing is huge, because a lot of decks do not have access to that immediately, or do not realize until it's too late that the card cannot be removed. Next we play our Draglubion engine. So Draglubion is a rank 8 who can fetch any number dragon from our extra deck, and so we use him to get our Hope Harbinger. This is a spell negation, and it has Taunt. It can make monsters attack it, as well as if another Xyz monster dies while this is out, it gains their attack points. Or, this is often a first turn rank 8 play. Make Draglubion use its effect, make Harbinger. Although be careful, once you use Draglubion's effect, you cannot attack with or summon other monsters for the rest of the turn. Or, if we want to finish the game, we've cleared the opponent's board, it's turn 2, we want to make Numeron Dragon. This card, by detaching material, gains 1,000 attack points for every rank star on the field. With just it and Draglubion, that's 9,000, but oftentimes, for that extra push, we can put out King of the Feral Imps, and that puts us up to 13,000, which can clear over anything with less than 5,000 attack points. The Galaxy Eyes Prime Photon could be literally any other number dragon. This is just to go under the card Draglubion summons. Dragon Knight Felgrand is crazy. Once per turn, quick effect, detach a material and target a monster on the field. Its effects are negated but is unaffected by other card effects. This is obviously a negation, but also this is protection. We use this on our own monsters against Nibiru, things like that, against hand traps, on itself to avoid destruction. This card is insane. Evolzar Lagia. This is an option for if we make Apo and we want another card, or we can't quite make Apo but we want a negation set up with our dinos. This is one of them. This could also be Dolka, but neither of them get summoned that often. We play the Apollosa because this is the end board goal of the dinos. It's a full 4 material Apo, which is very strong. Nightmare Phoenix, because back row is not our friend, and this gives us a way to destroy back row, which is very important against control decks. Pentestag allows the monster it is pointing to deal piercing damage, which can get you lethal off of Conductor Tyranno. So if they have 3 monsters, say, that would be 3,000 damage, but oftentimes with Pentestag's piercing, it is much more than that. This also applies, you can do this with Numeron Dragon to a defense position monster, so keep that in mind. We have Reptilian Echidna, a link 2 that includes a reptile monster. If it is summoned, you target an opponent's monster and perma-reduce its attack to 0. Also, once per turn, you can search reptiles equal to the number of monsters your opponent controls with 0 attack points, but you're locked into reptiles from the extra for the rest of this turn. This second effect is not that good. This locks you into a Melusine play, which means your board is likely very weak. Oftentimes, the purpose in summoning this is to preserve your materials. This is a link 2, so if we have Nunu on board, and we don't want to make a rank 4 Xyz because we want to go for Apo, because if we use this and another 4, that puts us down a material from 2 to 1. By making Echidna, we now have 2 materials still, so the Apo is still summonable. It is also a good way to can open your opponent's field for things like UCT or Numeron to go for lethal, because of that 0 attack. Secure Gardna and Linkuriboh, this is very important. When you go for the Apo play, you have to send the Archosaur to make Linkuriboh. You don't have to make Secure Gardna, but it gets you another material. This is because you need the non-dino engrave for the double Evo pill after you use the Archosaur. Without that, you often will not have a non-dino to use for the pill. Keep this in mind. For the side, there are 3 Gamma, 3 Dogwood, Starving Venom, Dragostapelia, Mud Dragon of the Swamp, 3 Super Poly, and 3 Twin Twister. This is obviously a Super Poly engine, these fusions, and Twin Twister is huge and likely should be in the main deck. These extenders are strong, but maybe 2 Twin Twister and 1 Coatl is the correct play here, and this is probably what I'll bring to the next locals I play in. So that's the deck profile. Thank you for watching. But now for some notes on how this list works, why this is a good mashup of archetypes. So the first thing is Curse is weird. This card gives your opponent a monster, which oftentimes you would think would deny you damage, it would give the opponent materials. This is often not the case thanks to UCT. You give your opponent a material, and oftentimes that's just a guaranteed 1,000 damage, or with things like Pentestag, much more than that. So it's good for this deck. In the normal pure build of this deck, it is not good. You do not want to see this happen, give your opponent materials, but here it actually works out quite well. It's quite synergetic. Another bit of synergy. Alert can add monsters from our banished back to our graveyard. One of them has to be a reptile, but the other does not. What this means is oftentimes we do not need 2 reptiles back in our grave. After our combos have gone off, we likely only need to see Naya back in the graveyard, or Nunu, respectively one or the other, and that other slot can be used to put our Misk back in our graveyard, and this is huge for recoverability. It gives us another free material at the very least if we just get an Archosaur the next turn with no search, nothing. But if we have any more setup, we can do a lot more. If we have a baby, that gets us 3 cards because we make Archosaur pop the baby, Arco searches the Evo pill, baby summons Oviraptor, Oviraptor then searches a card on its own. So it's really big to get Misk back. Also, a little combo between Zoha and Aaron is just like Alert adds a card from the opponent's graveyard to the opponent's hand. If Zoha is sent from the field to the graveyard or summoned from the graveyard, so if he's banished after being summoned by Curse, his effect will not trigger. But if he is one of those 2, summoned from grave sent to grave, you get to add a reptile from deck to hand, and your opponent draws a card, and then you both discard a card. And with King, because your opponent added a card from deck to hand, they have to rip a card. So this combo, if you ever find it, is actually a -1. The last point to make about this deck is that it is 41 cards, but this is a toolkit deck. There are lots of 1-ofs, as you can see, and there are lots of 2-ofs. That's because we do not want to see these cards that often, and we never really want to see a lot of these in our hand, save for Misk. So while you could try to cut it to 40, because we play so many mill options, I do not feel it is necessary for the consistency. So Thank you so much for watching. That's all for me.